This time on 20 Minutes into the Future, the Plutopia News Network looks at a unique approach to political protest. On August 3rd, digital rights activists from EFF-Austin gathered at the Sheraton Austin at the Capitol, where FCC Chairman Ajit Pai was addressing a conservative conference. Kevin Welch and Alex Sharistani joined Scoop Sweeney for lunch and a protest, a very unique digital protest. Gentlemen being inside on a fine summer day in Austin?
Well, it came to our attention a few days ago that a gentleman named Ajit Pai was going to be speaking at a conference here at the Sheraton called the Emergent Gathering. Ajit Pai, as many of your listeners may know, is the head of the FCC and the gentleman behind the recent Title II rollbacks of net neutrality regulation. So we are here conducting a silent, very nerdy protest of his policies.
The best of protests.
So, tell me about the protest.
So, in classic nerd, well, with nerds, you often have to blur the line between slacktivism and activism, and I think this is a good concept for the nerd. It's a protest that is good for those in the know technologically. Specifically, we are both sitting right here with our Wi-Fi hotspots on our phones, and we have given the networks some interesting names. So anybody in the hotel who is looking to connect to Wi-Fi, who is within several hundred feet of us, will see a little protest message.
Mm-hmm. Nothing dangerous, nothing. You're not going to shout at anyone or shake your fists at anyone other than through your Wi-Fi message.
I think what we really want is for the discourse to continue, not to end and be one-sided. So by doing this, hopefully enough people with the power to make changes will be able to see our message and see that it matters to people and still continue to have their discussions about their ideas and feel like we deserve the same opportunity to be heard.
Yeah, I would agree with that and say that I think there's become kind of an air of pessimism in the nerd community that the net neutrality fight after about a decade has been lost. And this is partly to raise awareness that it is not, that due to Chevron deference, the FCC chair has the right to change these rules anytime he sees fit. So the regulations could literally be restored tomorrow if Mr. Pai could be convinced of their merit.
I understand some people have questioned whether this is an appropriate demonstration. How did you respond?
I mean, I tried
confusion.
That's a slightly less tactful way than I put it, but I wanted to be that blunt. I mean, this happens with literally every protest. People always raise arguments of civility. I literally don't see how we could be more civil about this. We're not even holding physical real-world signs.
Yeah.
And, simple truth is I think, with great power comes great responsibility. And with being a public servant in a democracy, that means answering to your critics. So I would argue that we are exemplifying the best of America by speaking out right now. And, when people want to criticize even something this minor, I wonder where they would have been in 1930s Germany, #Godwin's Law.
And they would say we were contributing by pointing out flaws that maybe you didn't think about. And I think
the first speaker, when I replied, he was pretty reasonable. The second one, I was just like, dirty tricks? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so I replied to one of the emails.
No rush. I can take card or cash if you don't want to do that.
Well,
thank you.
He didn't reply because he didn't feel it was his place to reply, but Rob Matney messaged me privately and was just like, what are these people talking about?
I replied to one of them off the chain, just to be like, okay, if you want to have a conversation about it, let's have it, but let's not, take the whole discussion off topic.
When this is
and I never heard back
primarily
from
about organizing and
news. I was like, I understand what your concerns are, but if anything like that happened, I would be the one to...
somebody looking for me.
Go
It's
ahead.
probably spam, but I'll just check.
Yeah, but I was just like, if anyone did something like that, if they tried to shout down...
It is spam about my credit card.
shout down the presentation or anything,
Right.
I would say that I was against that. I would tell them that's not what I'm here to do, and leave it at that. I can't stop them.
And that's so, 20 years ago, that whole violent approach, because it really, I've covered a few of those, and it really didn't accomplish a lot other than to give whoever the organization was, a lot of bad PR.
Yeah,
I mean, it almost felt to me like they were accusing us of like Antifa style tactics, and I'm like, ignoring the false equivalency of both sides are the same, but even ignoring that, fine, one could feel their tactics still aren't justified, but nobody's proposing that here.
Like it's very above board what we're planning to do, and it's so out of the way it almost isn't like a protest. It's really just like a means to communicate a message.
It is less intrusive than taking the knee during a football game. Apparently that greatly angers a lot of people for some reason.
Yeah, I did a legal observer thing with the NLG during my first year of law school. And what that is you just go to a protest where it's likely that people might get arrested. And all you do is take notes on what everyone does. And so if someone does get arrested, their defense counsel has an accurate record of everything that happened. And so I went to this Black Lives Matter protest, taking notes, recording stuff. Literally nothing happened. After like 4 hours, finally I started to head home, and I heard on the news later that maybe 20 people out of the 200 or 300 that had shown up decided to continue the protest after it ended, and they went and they shut down the 35. And then there was a bunch of negative press about them, like these idiots blocked the 35, and it makes them seem like they're not a legitimate group, right? When really the real story was like the 200 or 300 people who had been there and been perfectly peaceful and just like discussed the issue,
It makes for a much more clickbaity news headline: protesters arrested. Nobody wants to hear about people calmly exercising their First Amendment right to make their public officials hear their views.
Well, media generally would much rather cover a war than a peace, and that's goes with demonstrations as well. A peaceful demonstration generally won't make it onto the headlines.
Yeah. But something like this is so easy to do. Like, I'm sort of contemplating just leaving the Wi-Fi hotspot on all the time just while I leave my phone in my pocket, right? Because anyone who's going to connect to Wi-Fi is going to see that message and think about it,
Exactly. I sort of am thinking that this might be an interesting movement to do in general.
Do you have any showing up yet there?
Yeah. I mean, well, I have to turn mine off to check. Maybe Alex, when he has a moment, can check his computer. It may be just us, it was very short notice, but I do like Alex's point that this could be part of a wider social movement of just encouraging the naming of Wi-Fi hotspots to remind people that this fight is not over.
Yeah.
In the end, the Wi-Fi messages found their way onto the Sheraton menu of Wi-Fi choices. No one shouted, no physical signs were waved, no one went to jail, and a good time was had by all. I'm Scoop Sweeney, and this is the Plutopia News Network, 20 minutes into the future.